stay on time here. So I asked you what your number one priority was for the next week to 2 weeks. So tell me, what is the number one barrier that you see happening to get to that priority or get that priority completed in the next week to 2 weeks? Go ahead and write that down. What is the barrier? I would use another term like, what's the problem? But then all your mind's going to that negative mind space. So a barrier is just something that we go around over through. A problem, something that we get mindset stuck on. So what is the barrier that you see coming?
Dion, I have to say, I love that you've got guitars hanging in the background.
Thank you.
Because I literally have mine hanging right behind me over on this side.
Awesome.
Let's see it.
It's going to turn into a jam session, guys. Hang on.
Yeah, let's see. See, right over there. I got
There
it.
you
Right
go. Oh,
next to
nice.
the
Very
whiteboard.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
Down,
so
down, down, down. I love my coaching. Down, 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 down. I mean, here it comes.
You got a theme song for that. That would be perfect. Give him a contract. So I know it's Deanne does. Stephanie, would you mind sharing what you do?
Yeah, so I'm an estate planning and probate attorney. I do wills and trusts and that sort of thing.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. So I gave you guys a moment. So if you guys look at your barriers that are there, what's the one question you'd like to ask that we can formulate a conversation around today? Do I need to sing the Jeopardy song? Would that help?
So I'll share. Mine has to do with other people kind of getting things into me. And so my barrier is like, people are slow, they have lives, they're doing stuff. And so like, I think for me, especially like when we deal, there aren't specific deadlines per se, but you know, timeliness is an important issue. And so trying to convey that to working with other people who you can't really control like what they do, right? But kind of conveying the sense of urgency to other people and without being a nag or, you know, a slave driver. Yeah, just I guess being tactful.
Love it. Love it. So yours is, how do we
Great
convey
topic.
a message of urgency to others? All right, Dean, what is yours?
I'll chime in real quick. So right now, what I'm dealing with, I'm really trying to develop my pipeline and develop referral sources. Now, in doing that, I have a campaign, and Stephanie and Tanner both know the campaign that I've launched. It's a 5-touch process. But in doing that, what I'm finding is most of my time is getting tied up with the campaign as opposed to being out getting face-to-face with people. How do I facilitate getting someone in to help me with that campaign? I need to do it cost effectively, but I need someone that's able to do the admin for me on the campaign side, so I'm able to go out and generate. Because when my time is tied up, and Tanner and I talk about this in the meeting all the time, when our time is tied up doing the admin, or our time is tied up doing things that are not as let's say cost effective for the business, and my time generating is where the money comes from. So if I'm not out there generating and I'm doing the campaign things, then no money's being generated for the business, and that's a problem.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. All right. I love that. I love that. Would it be all right? All right. So we have that effectiveness, and then we're going to talk about urgency. Would it be okay if we go ladies first today, Deanna?
Yeah, of course.
All right, I love it. Okay, so Stephanie, just so you know, I get called a lot worse than a nag as being a coach, right? So I get called a lot of things that we can't say right here because, you know, I'll be taken off of YouTube and then I'll be banned because, you know, it's what people call me because I hold people accountable. So let's look at it in this instance. So when you have a client, especially when you're talking about estate planning and things like that, and you say it takes time. So when it takes time for you, are we talking weeks, months, dates? I mean, what kind of time frame are we talking about for your urgency?
Well, the specific thing I was thinking about is actually on a probate case, and it's getting some things in to, get the ball rolling to get a hearing. But with regular estate planning, it also takes time because you're waiting on people to make decisions. You're waiting on people to get back to you regarding whether they want to move forward with X, Y, or Z. So in that sense, it could be days, it could be weeks, it depends on the person.
Right, right. So so let's talk about this exact instance right now when you're talking about this probate case. So tell me this, when you asked them for information, did you take the responsibility of it and say, hey, I need X, Y, and Z? When do you think how do you ask that question? Is it, hey, I need this? And they say what? I'll send it to you. I'll get it to you. What do they do?
So it's for multiple people. It's for like 4 different people in one case. And so I said, hey, I need you guys I'm sending this to you via email and USPS priority mail. I need you to get it back to me, like, notarize it, whatever, get it back to me. If you have questions, let me know. But if we don't, before we can move forward with any kind of hearing, I need to get all of these back. And I know you want to get the hearing like on calendar soon. So
Can I chime in real quick, Stephanie? That's something that I deal with in my industry as well. It's really things that are out of my control, unfortunately. And those are the things that I want to have control over, like timing, like people being, I need people to operate in real time. I need them to get things back to me so I can move forward with things. So I completely understand where you're at and what you're going through right now. Do you ever set the expectation with them? I want to put this in for you, but I need to get this back by this date or this time.
yeah, and I've also told them that I'm out of town.
Okay.
So
let me explain something to both you guys. What you just did is you accepted responsibility for their actions by those sentences. Does that make sense to you? So let me do this really quickly. When I go, hey, tell me what's your priority for the next couple of weeks, please write it down. What did you guys do?
Wrote it down.
Exactly. I didn't write it down for you, right? So we go through this a lot in the service world. Here's what ends up happening is we take ownership, accountability, and responsibility for everybody else because we dictate timeframes. So a common question that I ask, and Tina can attest to this, Nafisa can attest to this. Nafisa, have I ever asked you, hey, so when will you have that back to me? No, I've never asked that of you. When will this be completed by? But we have. And so like I asked you last week, so hey, can you have that up and running by next Monday? And you said, or will you be able to have that up and running by next Monday? And you were like, yes, I will be able to have that up and running by next Monday. See what I did there, or when I ask people, I always ask people, so when do you think you'll be able to send that back to me? When do you think you will be able to send that back to me? What have I just transferred?
Responsibility.
To them. Actually, not responsibility. I transferred ownership to them. So when would you be able to hand that back to me? Oh, I'll be able to get it to you next week. Great. Thank you so much. When next week? People are like, well, I'll get it to you next week. Next week is a lot of days and times. And so in order to serve you better, what day are you going to send it to me? Well, I'll send it to you Thursday. Great. In order to not to be a stalker, what time are you going to send that to me? And I walk. Now, remember, I deal with high functioning executives, business owners, just like you every day. And I'm not rude about it. So what time will you send it to me? Well, I don't know. Well, if you don't know, how am I going to know when to expect it? Because I'm assuming when you send it to me, you're going to want me to get this done, right? So what time would you send it to me, Dion?
It'll be there by 1.
Okay, great. So tell me this, Dion. What is it you want me to do if I don't see that by 1 o'clock?
That's a great question. Will you please reach out to me? Because the likelihood is I forgot. So
Exactly.
now I'm asking you to connect me to ask for it.
Exactly. I'm positioning and I'm moving everybody through this process of they have to take ownership to it. When you ask somebody what, so I guess I missed one question there. The other question I would be is, so how are you going to send me that information? Is it going to be email? Is it going to be snail mail? How am I going to know that you've done that? Now, again, that's the ownership and accountability, because I'm planning for the future for them to do things. Most people, when you start transferring that, like, oh, shoot, I just committed to X, Y, and Z, they start, it does this registration in their head, like, I don't want to disappoint. Or it also causes that thing of they start working on it immediately, because now they know that it's on them, not you. So when we do all of these different things, we ask for time. I ask every week, every coaching call of every day, I ask for action items, times, dates, when it's going to be completed, and how will I know that it's going to be done? It is no different with the public. And yes, they're paying us, but it's so ironic to me is that they want us to do the work immediately after they procrastinate for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, right, Stephanie? Like, hey, I sent it to you on Friday. Oh, but you were supposed to send it to me on Monday, so now I'm off for the weekend. It's not going to get done. And then they're mad at Stephanie because she actually has a life, right? So we have to position it right up front as a, hey, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and you have a high expectation of me, and I have expectations from you, but let's make sure that we're all on the same page. So even with 4 and 5 people, you can ask that question is, so when are you going to be able to get this completed? How are you going to get it completed? How are you going to send it to me? When are you going to have it completed? Just to make sure. And it's like, they're going to realize really quickly that it's not that you're trying to be a nag. You're trying to make sure that you can schedule the proper time, so when it comes in, you can immediately get it completed. It's not like you get to go. I mean, ask your clients. I mean, it's so funny. So tell me, if you're going to go to the doctor's appointment and you had to have all this paperwork done for the doctor's appointment, would you wait till the minute before the appointment to get it done? No, they never would.
Only if it's my son's dermatologist.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that.
The doctor be like, sorry, see you next week or next month, whenever I can get you in. We have to position ourselves as, we are the professionals. We are very busy. We're setting this up because I'm task driven. I live by a calendar, and I want to be able to serve you as soon as you get the stuff in. And that goes for everybody's business.
This is where we take it that step further, and it actually ties in a bit to what you said, Dion, in terms of having a multi-step process in terms of connecting, communicating, but it's really building the system of what does your sales process look like. Of course, the sales process is different for each individual, each industry, but putting this into your process as you go through, like, these are questions you have to ask, you have to position, you have to help transfer that ownership, get them engaged in enrolling in what they ultimately came to you for, right? Dion, in your, you and I had some conversations, and you had asked me for some information, right? Well, I needed to get that back to you. So being able to put that into a system and say, this is how I address that particular question every single time I meet with a new prospective client, then it becomes routine. It becomes the ability to make sure that you're refining and getting really good at asking those questions as well.
Let me just chime in and say, I appreciate your real time too. I appreciate that.
I don't like to just have things there. I'll get it done.
That's what so Blake teases me. Blake calls me Johnny on the spot. He goes, if I ask you to do something, it's like, it's done and it's in my email box. I go, that's how I roll, man. What's the point of letting it sit? I don't want to let it fester and sit in my inbox for a long time. Let's just take care of it and let's move on to the next thing.
But that's
not crazy.
All of us are wired differently. I mean, we're doing what we're doing because of our innate ability to GSD, right? Get shit done. Sorry if this offends somebody, but we do. We all live and die by that. But society is about life. Society is about all the distractions that go into it. And if we consistently take the accountability, ownership, and responsibility for everybody else's decisions, we consistently get burned by it because it's Stephanie calling 14 people like, hey, you said you were going to have this done 3 weeks ago. What seems to be the problem? And then Stephanie's the bad person, right? It's Andy. If Andy has to chase a bunch of stuff, that's why I asked that question is, what is it you want me to do? People hate that question. What do you mean? Do you want me to call you? Do you want me to send up a flare? Do you want me to put it on social media? What do you want me to do? Oh, if I forget this, and usually important things, people don't want to be like, oh crap. And they will, we all drop the ball. And if you have to, look, just if I forget, call me. Great. Hey, hi, this is Andy. You said you were going to have your stuff to me today at 9:15. I haven't seen it yet. Just want to make sure it didn't get lost in the mailbox or you forgot to hit send. So this is your call. Let me know. 9 out of 10 times when I do that, I get a response within the hour of, oh crap, and I have what I'm looking for. Or people step up to go, because it's that disappointment. People don't want to disappoint anybody. We're not inherently, nobody wakes up every morning and go, you know what? I'm going to make Dion's day a living heck. I am going to pee in his Wheaties, and from there, we're just going through the day.
Yeah, Bruce Jenner did that a long time ago.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Stephanie, has this been a helpful conversation?
Yes, thank you. It's absolutely essential for me to remember that I am not responsible for other people's actions and to help keep them accountable. What are the best ways to do that? So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And if they'd like, you can start billing them on 6-minute increments for every time you have to pick up the phone. That might change their point too. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We can talk about that later. But for anybody listening out here, I'm not telling her to raise your price yet. All right. So now, Dion, cost effectiveness, leverage. So tell me this, when you say cost effective, define that for us.
Cost effective meaning the most valuable thing to me right now is my time.
Really?
So if my time is spent in the middle of a campaign or doing the admin for a campaign, my time is not spent in the most effective arena, which is engaging people.
Right. So when you say admin, what is that worth to you?
Email. So the five touch process that I use. So the first thing they get is a postcard.
Right.
3 days later, they get an email. Now I'm sending out about 10 at a time. So to find the business owners, to find the addresses, to target the people that I want. Now targeting the people is not as difficult as it may seem. I know I want restaurants. So if I'm actively pursuing restaurants now, I need to figure out who the restaurant owners are. I've got to figure out addresses, email addresses. And a lot of times if they have multiple locations, where do they house themselves at? So I need someone to help me figure some of that out. I need someone to fill out the postcards and send them out for me. I need someone to do follow-up emails for me, which isn't crazy. There's a template that's used and we put it into play. But
Go ahead.
no, I was going to say when, I'm 5 weeks into this. So there's about 50 restaurants I'm kind of going back and talking to right now, but having to filter through, 150 emails and things like that, trying to piece things together. It'd be nice to have somebody kind of filter that out for me.
Excellent. Okay, so tell me, what's that position worth to you? Lower right-hand corner. What is an hourly rate that's fair to? What do you feel that position is worth?
Well, right now, that's a really good question. I'm looking at about 15 right now, and my wife is thinking about taking it on as a part-time.
Excellent.
Which would be
$2 an hour.
I can get her for 10, but don't tell her I said that.
Guys, ladies and gentlemen, if he doesn't make it to the networking course next week and there's not a body, it was not an accident.
That's why. I'm kidding. I'm a big believer in making sure that you take care of anybody that's working with you. You want to take care of them. You want to make sure that they have something good to chew on, or otherwise they're not coming back.
Well, you do realize this is recorded, and Tanner might, if you blackmail, send it to your wife. So, hey, whatever's up to you.
It's going to end up on her Facebook feed.
So think about this for a second. I just want to do some basic math for you guys. So a lot of employees, so you just listed off several things that are visible. So you talked about emails. Mm-hmm. You talked about social media, right? You talked about looking for addresses, right? What else did you say that this admin was going to do for you? I know there was a long list. It was like 10.
Yeah, there's postcards, social media touches,
Okay,
and having someone to help manage my social media accounts would be amazing. I'm working through 3 different social media accounts right now, and every one is really a different campaign that's going on.
okay, so you have $15 an hour. So as I look at this chart here, so let's just say you are let's just say you are a $500,000 revenue per year. I'm using round numbers. It helps me, but the math, sorry, we're gonna have to raise that back up so you can see the top of my board. There we go. Maybe I'll just set it back a little bit so you guys can see the whole thing. Is that better? Great. Okay, so this is 500,000. And I want you to divide this by 2,000 hours. Somebody do the math for me really quick. What is 500,000 divided by 2,000 hours?
Wow, 250. Am I close? 500,000 you said by 2,000 hours? Yeah, 250.
Or is it 250? Somebody got a calculator out? All right.
Yes,
just
it's
check it. All
250.
right. So our business is worth $250 per hour. Let's change some colors here. So tell me, if this is your business, tell me, what is the role of the business right here? Okay, so if it's $250 an hour, what is your role? Oh, and by the way, 2,000 hours is based on everybody deserves 2 weeks of vacation regardless. So if you can't take 80 hours off a year, where there's a bigger problem. Okay, so $250. Tell me what it is you're doing, Dion, or what your business is doing per hour. So you said it's seeing customers, right?
Mhm.
Okay, what else is it?
Oh, so seeing customers, we're building relationships. We're doing a lot of quoting. We're doing a lot of business touches, going in and doing risk management reviews. What else do we do in the insurance business? It's a lot of risk management.
Okay, so, but it's also in the business, it's planning,
Oh, a lot of planning.
right? It's planning, it's strategy. So tell me this. In the business world, what is this visible or invisible over here on the side of the $15 an hour?
Oh, well, that's invisible to the client. The client will never know what's going on in the background. That's kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah, but to you, is this visible or invisible?
Oh, it's visible to me.
Right, this is all visible. Now, to you, to our employees, to our team, is this visible or invisible?
Oh, that'll be the stuff they don't see.
Exactly. My point is this. Most business owners always get caught over here. I've been caught over here. So look at this math equation really quick. And I use this with every client, and I've been burned on this one myself because I get caught in it. If the business is worth $250 an hour and this role over here is worth $15 an hour, this isn't cost effectiveness, this is losses. This is straight up losses. So every time you're over here, you can't look at $15 as a hard cost. You have to look at it every time you do it, you lose $235 an hour in the business because you're too busy doing your job to do your job. And so every business owner in the history of the world has made this mistake. Our job is to look at ROI. So think of it like this. If you pay somebody $15 an hour to do a role, and then you go out and spend an hour doing the work you're supposed to be doing, it's not the business isn't worth $250 an hour. It's $250 plus $235 because you're doing the work, right? So now you're at $485 an hour because now you're doing this. So when you look at cost effectiveness, we look at the now. Cost effectiveness is what is it going to do for me later? Because if everybody looks at the now, yes, it's cash, right? It's total cash. You got to train, you got to get people in the groove, you've got to get them to do the work, you have to check the checker. But the reality is this should last maybe a month. After the first month or the first 3 weeks, you should start getting an ROI because you're focused on the things you need to focus on. Does that make sense to everybody?
What's really amazing about this is when you start looking about this holistically, that say 250 an hour, we're looking at this from for clarity as your per hour, whether you're the business owner and executive within the business, or kind of whatever that looks like, that's your per hour, right? As you continue to move on this chart and you start to make the strides there using this leverage, that 250 an hour continues to creep up, because now all of a sudden you're able to generate more business. You're able to do more things that makes you worth more per hour. So now we're starting to see some big traction moving forward with that leverage piece. And that's where a lot of this comes in. Really, regardless if this is strictly for business owners or leaders and executives within the business as well, when you start looking at it from this perspective.
Exactly. So does this help, Dion? Because I know exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying is you're getting caught, but you're spending so much time doing this that this will suffer.
Yeah.
And it's the marketing, it's the sales, it's the marketing, it's the sales. Oh, then you lose a customer. Now you got to go back to marketing. It's or admin or whatever it is. We consistently see those troubles. And if life has taught me anything, whatever this hourly rate is, it will more than pay for itself long term if you train this person and get them moving in the right direction with you.
And can I just say, Dion, we use interns. They are paid interns, like probably around the $15 per hour mark, but we use interns from like the local paralegal school to come and do like our, basic admin stuff, the scanning and stuff. I have a couple of contacts at some schools, if you want, who are basically looking for businesses to partner with to get their students internships and things like that. So if you want,
yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you very much.
If your wife doesn't want to do
it. And from an intern perspective, Nafisa is actually our intern with our firm, and I know she's had a lot of fun being able to work with us and do some work there and such as well.
And don't forget, teach us a few things too, Tanner. Yes, absolutely. So anyway, I think this is a great conversation, but again, I don't want you to get lost. I don't want any business owner to get lost in cost. Every employee has an ROI. We just have to find it. We as business owners must have those conversations to be like, oh my gosh, they're doing a great job. We're the retention of our clients, the information, helping them understand that it may not be perfect, but it's better than you having to do it every day. And that's what I always find interesting is that business owners hire these people, interns, new employees, and they expect perfection. They expect perfection because, well, if I was doing it, it'd be perfect. Well, you've been doing it for 15 years. It ought to be perfect. This person's been doing it for 3 months. Why don't we cut them a little slack and teach them better? Awesome. Dion, has this been helpful?
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Excellent. Any other subjects or any other things that you had written down you guys want to discuss here today?
So something that I'm just going to throw this out there. In my industry, it's a real, or can be a real turn and burn sort of thing. And I spent time with a real big boy and Stephanie and Tanner, and you probably know who I was with. It was New York Life. It was always about having your name on the board. It's about having results and numbers and go and go get them. Really, the drive that Blake and I have with ST Insurance is building relationships and stepping back a little bit and slowing down. And I actually had this conversation with Blake yesterday. So what I noticed was in my campaign process is I'm going through about 50 restaurants now. And I'm looking into week 6 going, okay, I'm going to tack on 10 more restaurants in week 7, 10 after that. And then when I get to 100, then what? And I noticed that it gets into this, you're so stuck in the grind and the way things go, it becomes sort of that turn and burn again. So I told Blake, I'm really taking a step back in my campaign next week. I'm taking a full week just to stop and go back and revisit people that I've already talked to. Let's slow it down. We need to lead with relationships. That's what we do. But I've noticed just in slowing down the process, it's not that I'm slowing the process down at all. I'm just revisiting things and going back to make sure that I'm being strategic and smart about it. what are you guys doing in your process, like Stephanie? I know that you know you're kind of on that teeter right now, getting people to do things for you and getting things back on time. Do you ever find that you're just so in depth with what's going on that you lose focus and sight?
I would say that yes, there's definitely there are definitely times when I have to kind of regroup and refocus, get out of the sort of nitty gritty and just look at the big picture thing again. I keep we have checklists basically of like the process, the flow process, and so that kind of helps us keep things on track, making sure that we are getting the individual steps done that need to be taken care of in terms of tasks, but always keeping that big picture in mind about, you know, this is where we're kind of headed. So I find that to be kind of helpful, just to have like the task list, but also another list showing like the overall procedure.
Gotcha. Okay.
So have you ever heard of old selling versus new selling, guys? All right, so really quickly, if you can't read the top of my board, but my board says engage, enroll, and retain, because it's really critical for us to engage them. And that's on building rapport. Sorry, I'm erasing my board here again so I can write. For some reason, my 6-year-old intern isn't here to help me write on my board. He's busy today. All right, so when we look at old versus new, so we look at rapport. Sorry, I have more than one way to spell a word, okay? Sorry. Then we have selling. And then we have follow-up. So to your exact point. All right. Sorry, we have this. It looks really sharp up there when you spell things wrong on camera. Don't you agree?
I agree.
Okay, so think about this for a second. Some of you guys aren't old enough. Do you guys remember the old car salesman? So think about selling pre-95. Pre-95, the selling was this. We spent all of our time right here. This is pre-95. We didn't worry about rapport. So part of New York life, like you talked about, it's sell, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
So we spent no time building rapport, and the follow-up is not there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's totally backwards today. Today, if you follow Gittimer, Roy Chitwood, Tom Hopkins, Zig Ziglar even taught this, but people weren't paying attention. We must back up. So you slowing down is perfect, because the new selling is like this. We spend all of our time building rapport. We spend all of our time following up. We spend very little time selling the product, because people don't want to be sold. They want to be taught how to buy your product.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be educated. They want to be educated. They want to be able to make educated decisions. This is the new consultative selling process, right? We're taking them on a guided tour. And one of the things that my grandfather used to always tell me about selling, and this is back, we grew up in a family business, but when all the lies you tell me are true, we will be good friends. So think of that from a sales point. When you go in and you're talking to somebody, everybody's culture today, more than ever, that everything that you're saying is a lie. It's a lie, right? So for him to tell me that back in the early 80s, when all the lies you tell me are true, we will be great friends, was truly a statement of, oh shit, right? Because educate, we're building rapport. We have, our customers have every opportunity to prove that we're lying. But if we're going in and building rapport, we're educating them on how our products and services, all of ours, mitigate risk, help us plan for the future. Then we're following up with, instead of it being in this instance over here, when you'd sell somebody something and then the follow-up, you wouldn't call them back, what do they remember? When you sell something or you engage them or you enroll them in your service and you're following up, because now it's not transactional, it's relationship build. The likelihood of people leaving you to buy from somebody else over here was 50, 60%. Over here, it's your job to lose them. If you're building rapport and you're following up, the perception of your customers will be that you appreciate them and care about them. Make sense? So I'm 100% agreement with when we slow down, we educate, everything works out better. Make sense?
Thank you.
Anytime. All right, Tanner, looks like we are at the limit. So Tanner, take us away. If there's any questions, you guys are welcome to send me an email or Tanner, and we'll be glad to help out.
Thanks, Andy.
Excellent. Well, thanks guys for jumping on. As I think I started this call with, as I've told many of you before, this is open. Bring a guest with you next time you can make it. We do this every Friday at 9 a.m. For about 45 minutes here. It's truly an open call. We're going to continue to have these types of discussions. As we get more and more folks on the call, we may only be able to talk about one or two topics, but it really will continue to be peer-to-peer. Let's throw our inputs and such in there and such as well. So anyone that you see finds value or could find value in something like this, business owners, business leaders, aspiring business owners that want to continue to learn on how they can continue to grow in their career, and their potentially moving on to opening a business of their own one day, all are great and welcome here in this particular group. Our goal here is to continue to build this community and help us all continue to have prosperity moving forward, especially here in the Central Texas area. So thank you again for joining. I've got really nothing else to say at this point. Hope to see you back next week and the week after, and so forth from there. We will be putting this recording in the private Facebook group for the Thrive to Action, so that we can continue these discussions moving forward. If you have any questions or anything else, always feel free to reach out. But thanks again for coming in today.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Nice to meet you, Stephanie.
Thank you, you too.